Let's see, do we have just a couple more minutes, 2 more minutes? All right, real quickly. Government oversight has been an enormous failure in this thing, as we all know. We knew the Minerals Management Service was dysfunctional years ago, and I had whistleblowers coming to me from the agency, giving me documents. We sent them, posted them on websites, showing the dysfunction within the agency, the industry co-option of public process. There are books written guiding industry how to co-opt agency and administrative processes. It's not rocket science, but these guys are really good at it. And they had so co-opted the Minerals Management Service that it just wasn't working. We also notified the incoming Obama administration of this during the transition period, told them, look, either the agency needs to be fundamentally restructured or it needs to be dissolved and the components taken into other agencies. They didn't do a thing. People often ask, well, how do you apportion blame here in the government between the Bush administration and the Obama administration? It's an impossible question, but it's fun to think about. And I usually say it's about, I'd say it's maybe 80% Bush administration, 20% current administration. Both have some complicity here. There's no question about it. So, yeah. Oh, lastly here, we'll talk a little bit about this in one of the breakout sessions, I think, this afternoon. But the real solution to government industry coziness is adequate public oversight. And that's why the notion of a Gulf of Mexico Regional Citizens Advisory Council, I think, is an important component here, but I need to certainly hear from you folks on that. Liability, we need unlimited liability. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, where the full environmental damage can be claimed. The old weld heads need to be cleaned up. There's something like 3,500 in the Gulf that are only in temporary abandoned state, and some 600 old platforms. The government has finally ordered that those be permanently plugged. We don't know how long permanently means with this concrete at these depths too. The political response, we know part of the deal made with Congress last year was that the Republicans would get some offshore drilling, clean coal, and nuclear in exchange for theoretically, for a cap and trade bill for climate. And that was the deal made, which is why the offshore drilling expansion was announced just a month or so before the Deepwater Horizon disaster. That sort of stuff, that gets to some of the fundamental fixes that we need, is the way policy is made in Washington. The drilling moratorium, we don't need to belabor that. I think Obama asked one of his aides, apparently, I want to know whose rear end to kick in deference to our location. And certainly, BP, we get that. They're the leaseholder. But there's others too. The Gulf of Mexico spill was maybe 4 million barrels, a little bit more than that spilled. We use in the US every day about 20 million barrels every day. Just with existing energy technologies on the shelf, we could be using half that. We know that. Another way of saying that is we are wasting, say, 10 million barrels of oil every single day in this country because our political leaders have simply been too lazy or too corrupt to fix the problem. We knew this in the Santa Barbara spill in 1969. We knew it in Exxon Valdez 21 years ago, and we know it now. If we wake up 20 years from now and the only thing we fixed out of Deepwater Horizon is offshore drilling safety and better government oversight, well, that's something, but it's not everything. We will have lost maybe our last chance to really get this energy situation fixed before it's too late to really do anything about it. I will say that, Obama, he came to the Gulf 4 or 5 times. We pressured, asked, begged President George Bush Sr. at the time of Exxon Valdez to visit Alaska. He never did, never once, because they were afraid of the political consequences of paying too much attention to this cost of oil. He did send his vice president, a fellow by the name of Dan Quayle, who flew into Cordova in Air Force Two. We had this little meeting out at the airport and talking, and I asked him point blank, we need an energy policy in this country that relies on alternatives and more efficiency. Are we going to get there? And he just pondered for a quick second and said, well, there's fission and there's fusion, and I like fusion. Next question. I like fusion too, but it doesn't exist yet. At least we haven't figured out how to do it. And then they went, and even when George Bush Jr., right, mentioned in Congress a few years ago, he said, we have a problem in America, and that is we're addicted to oil. I almost fell out of my seat, but of course they did absolutely nothing about it. So this is kind of the long-term, broad perspective. I don't need to belabor that now. Lastly, I have a second part of this that I show, which I'm going to skip for the moment, but I wanted to get to these. Here's the global problem with energy. It's just some satellite composites of lights on the Earth at night, showing some of the locations of energy use. Look at Saharan Africa, virtually nothing, Western Europe. And I would say that Western Europe and Japan we know that we're wasting half of the oil or the energy in the US because Western Europe and Japan can produce a unit of economic output on about half the energy input than we do here. So we need better transportation, power generation, appliance, and automobile standards in this country, and we can get there. But that's the one thing I did not hear in the Obama June 15th Oval Office address. It was stunning that he actually gave that. It was tremendous. But I think it was a little heavy on prayer and too light on policy. I wanted to hear him say, you know, instead of, yeah, we're doing some wonderful things on alternative energy, I wanted to hear that because of the Deepwater Horizon disaster, we're going to double down on everything we're doing right now. And that would be a substantial policy move that we just didn't hear. So anyway, just some quick images of where energy is used. You know, this Japan, the South Pacific looks like a nice dark place. And of course, here in the US, look at that, it's pretty stunning. You can see in Alaska, you know, Anchorage, Fairbanks, and these lights up here at Prudhoe Bay are gas flares. In Nigeria, you can see back there gas flares, which put millions of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere every year. And then I'll stop there. The show goes on for other reasons, but we'll just end it there. So one last thing, one last little anecdote, if I may, and that is a little J. Peterman moment if you've watched Seinfeld. In Papua New Guinea, another place I've been working, I was out on this very small little island, about 40 miles out in the Bismarck Sea several years ago, and we were working with the local people about this large mining operation, seabed mining, the first deep sea mining operation, commercial in human history, where they're going to go down and rip apart these deep sea hydrothermal vent systems for the gold and the copper that are there. And so these people, these tribal people along the coast of New Guinea are very, very afraid of this, even though it's deep water. And so all the villages got together in this one place. We're in this long hut and such, and I was giving my little talk, and you know, sitting there sweating and such, and I had my translator, their translator, and I said, at the end of it, I said, you know, and I'll help you folks in any way that you want to stop this. And so there was this long conversation going on between the chiefs and such like that, and I asked my translator, what are they talking about? He says, I have no idea. So finally, about 10 minutes went by, and they said through their translator, they would like to know if you will come help them attack the ship. And I thought, you know, there's other things we could do. Like I was thinking, I'll help you review the environmental impact statement and things like that. And they were dead serious. This was not a joke to them. So I said, there's a lot of other things we could try short of that. But if all else fails, save a place in the canoe. So I'm leaving that message with you guys here today that, you know, I'm here with you. You know, I know there's other folks here. We'll do what we can to help assist you, but this has to be driven locally. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of housekeeping announcements before we head into our break and then move into our other sessions. Thanks again.